tell you what.
All right, everyone, welcome to episode 17 of the Chondro Lounge. I am Lucas, one of your co-hosts, and Chuck is not going to be with us for this episode. I'm going to be flying solo, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'm excited for today's episode. So we are going to do a sponsorship spotlight. We have talked about Heartland Reptile Enclosures. That is one of our sponsorships. We linked down his Instagram down below, and we're going to catch up with Jordan. Jordan, for those of you that don't know, he's in the Superdorf retic game, right? Like that's where me and him met. Those are the animals I started with. And him and I have gotten extremely close over the years. I consider him a brother in the community. And he decided to build these incredible enclosures for reticulated pythons that were unmatched kind of for that species. And he has scaled those enclosures down for chondros. So we're going to get the behind the scenes information on the development of them, who was involved, the layouts of them, what they're made of. So that way, those of you that are getting into the chondro games, there are other options out there. And I have a couple of these Heartland enclosures for the chondros. I also have a massive 6-footer as well. And they are just phenomenal enclosures. So I'm excited to have Jordan on. Before we do that, I do want to also give a shout out to Cold Blooded Cafe. Use code Reptile Lounge 20 for 20% off for the best rodents in the U.S. Do not forget on that first order, Reptile Lounge 20, and you'll get 20% off. Whether you've poured your heart and soul into your reptile business or you've just begun your business journey, AE Foundry has you covered with next level expertise in graphic design, motion graphics, videography, photography, and so much more. If you've been dying for a new logo for your reptile business, motion graphics for your current logo, a new website, or need assistance making your video podcast come to life, then listen carefully. AE Foundry's mission places storytelling at its core. AE Foundry believes that a distinctive story and background are the driving forces that set your brand apart. In today's market, consumers seek more than just products. They crave a connection built on trust with the brands they cherish. AE Foundry is committed to empowering small businesses and fostering authenticity that resonates with their consumers. Reach out to them and let them help you craft a visual narrative that helps establish a genuine and lasting connection with your audience. To contact AE Foundry, email them at aromero@aefoundry.com or on Instagram at AE Foundry.
Hey,
what's going on, man?
Just living the dream, bud. Snakes.
Living the dream.
How about you?
I'm doing good. How's the basement situation?
Well, it's confined, at least to what you all can see. We had a water heater leak and didn't notice it. So we had to have a bunch of carpet ripped out, drywall cut out. So next to me, what you all can't see that I sent you beforehand is basically everything piled up. The desk is like against the wall right now, and but we're making it.
You got your like one neat little caddy corner there, and the rest is just like everything stacked and piled up.
Yes, exactly.
Man,
a lot of it's in trash bags, and yeah, it's not the prettiest sight.
No, hopefully you guys are able to get that situated soon. But dude, we had you on the Retic Lounge. Now we're having you on the Chondro Lounge. So you're just taking the Reptile Lounge network by storm here, talking about your enclosures. I know that a lot of the people in the Chondro community might have not heard so much about you, even though you've come over to Bill's. You've had an amazing time at the mayor's place. Yeah. And you have gotten to know a lot of the Chondro community. But if you don't mind, do you mind just sharing a little bit about like your background with reptiles and you know, where this kind of led you into developing like just Heartland Reptiles?
Yeah. So growing up, grew up in rural Kansas, chased anything that moved. A lot of that had scales, like most of us, flipping rocks, whatever. Just seeing what we could catch. Never really kept anything as far as like purchase. That just wasn't in the cards with my folks. But moved out, went to college.
Did you ever sneak anything?
I may have kept a couple things a time or two, but even then, it's like for a week or whatever, and then
I was able to get away with a duckling for like 3 days.
Even with like the noises,
Even with the chirping, 3 days. Yeah,
well, that's impressive.
I was the last child, with my oldest brother being 14 years older than me. At this point, my parents were like, "I was probably doing some weird type of drug or something." Like,
As long as you weren't loud, they were probably happy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. All right, continue. Sorry.
No, so went to college, got a Brazilian rainbow boa. It was a friend from high school that, back then a lot of people didn't have access to information or the education that we do now. She came home and, hey, there's a bunch of Brazilian rainbow boa babies, right?
No kidding.
Yeah, and so I got one of those. It lived with me over like Christmas break and stuff. It would go with one of my friends because it was a secret from my folks. But her name was Daisy. She helped me convert a lot of people that were afraid of reptiles into like at least somewhat curious.
Right.
So that was kind of the first time I experienced being able to share what I loved in a manner that other people found at least intriguing.
Right.
Had other stuff after that, Panther Chameleon, other different things. But I got my first retic. I like to play with design and stuff, so I had drawn up this whole wall fixture that was going to be like an 8-foot on the bottom, and then 4s and all these puzzle piece Tetris enclosures, and I had it planned out for Sumatran python and like all this different stuff. Got Mila my first retic, and in a matter of a month or two, I threw those plans away. I knew I only wanted this species.
Right.
Fell in love with them. As far as the enclosures, I converted an armoire enclosure into enclosure for my Panther Chameleon. It's still next to me. It's no exaggeration, probably 500 pounds, but I always like the idea of playing with big, solid, forever type setups.
Right.
And as of this year, I've had 20 years experience in the metal fabrication industry. So just kind of started blending the career path and what I know from my career into my passion with these animals. And, going on a year and a half, 2 years, it was February of 23 that I got the first design work started for the stack enclosures. And then October of 23 that I got my first stacks, if I remember. Or no, I'm sorry. October of 23 is when I vended the first show in Schaumburg.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna just share my screen here. I want to show just kind of like your setup at I want to say that was NARBC St. Louis.
Depending on which one you pull up, it could have been St. Louis, Schaumburg, Dallas.
Yep. Yeah, this one right here.
Was that was St. Louis.
Yeah. So so I mean, I like, just to give people a visual, right, of these the metal enclosures that you're talking about. I'm assuming the one over on the left is a 6-footer on that table.
Yes, that's a 6-foot.
And then you have the 4x4 stack over there.
Yep.
On the back right, and then you have the jungle gym, which is awesome.
Yep.
And then you have 2 of the Chondro enclosures sitting on top.
Yep, and I've got the 18-inch cube and the 30, just like you have.
Yeah. So we'll get back to talking a little bit more about the Chondro enclosures, but what I want to talk about first, real quick, is the idea of like this forever, just lifelong forever enclosure. I've said this many times in different podcast episodes, but I've tried just about any type of enclosure that's out there. As an adult, outside of like, your glass terrariums. I did that growing up, right? But I didn't want to go that route again. Funny fact, until now I have two of them that I'm setting up for monitors. So,
I still have
but
a hog nose and a 55. I mean,
yeah,
in the
they
right
do the job.
application, they're fine.
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah, I mean, one of the things that I have continuously had issues with any enclosure that I've had ABS, I've had PVC, I've had the whatever the vision cages are made out of. I've had melamine enclosures, I've had wood enclosures, and every single one of those enclosures need to be replaced after X amount of years. Especially with the retics, right? You get a PVC enclosure, and you get a shelf installed in there. The shelf starts to bow or get loose. A lot of PVC enclosures and how they are designed have that gap where retics like to push in. Never found that it worked for me. So, when you sent me over and I got that 6-footer off of you, number one, it was extremely light. What's the material made out of?
It's aluminum. It's 3003 is the grade, and it's 090 or 90 thousandths aluminum, like for the thickness.
Okay. And I mean, I'm curious, like did you decide to go with aluminum because of like where you're working in your professional career, or like, was that just something that you wanted to like give a shot and try out?
No, it strictly came from the knowledge I gained through my working career. I did project management for this company for just shy of 8 years, and so we called it womb to tomb project. From the initial request for quote, working through the design, building what the customer wants, all the way seeing through delivery, and potentially, if down the road there's warranty issues, going out and fixing anything that may need to be done. But I learned how strong and frankly long lasting this stuff could be. And over time, I learned that basically at the time, steel cost and aluminum cost was about the same for the overall cubic volume, and aluminum's a third the weight. So
Yeah.
we're not losing significant strength going to aluminum, especially for what we're keeping. You could, well, at the Arlington NARBC, I donated the 6-footer, and Vanessa laid on the floor, and another girl, Brittany, laid on the shelf, and then Phil and I stood on top of it.
Right.
So the strength is more than anything you should put in anything this size.
Right.
As far as capability.
Yeah. And another thing that I remember we talked about before is, these enclosures that you're building are made of the same material, the containers that are stored like for the type of work that your company that you work for does. And these containers have been sitting outside for how long?
They're expected to survive 30 plus years.
Yeah.
The company is, I think they're 42 years running now. And I can't remember what serial number, but I've seen like serial number 12 out in the field,
Yeah.
So they're going to outlast what any of us need, frankly. When I remember when you brought yours home, there was concern about how to get it in the garage, and without any concern, I said, just leave it outside. I mean, effectively, it's made in the same design style as these houses that are by railroad crossings and at power substations and stuff like that. So, short of some sun bleaching over a couple of decades, they're meant to withstand
over a couple decades.
I mean, literally, it's funny because it's true. So,
yeah. And I just, for me, this is definitely a hobby for me, right? But I do treat it as a business.
Right.
I am very mindful of money going in, money going out. And it was a pain early on to buy enclosures that I was replacing. Like, I shouldn't have to replace an enclosure that I've only had for 5 years, But if I have problems with them or they're bowing or whatever the other case may be, like I don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
And this seems like a great solution for that. It's like the one and done enclosure. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, the way that you look at it, all of us snake keepers can never just buy one, right? So you got to buy multiple enclosures, but they're going to last the lifetime of that animal and probably the next animal after that, and so on.
Right. Well, and the beauty, as you know, is generally speaking, as you get an animal, which grows into a second, and so forth, you're going to start with a little bit smaller enclosure. So as that animal needs a size upgrade, you move it up, and then I have an empty enclosure. I can get another one of what I had and fell in love with, and then you just progress, and then you have the grow up stages for it. So
right, yeah, no, it's nice. So you were doing retics, you were doing these enclosures for the retics, right? And then you also built a massive enclosure for the Kansas, the zoo.
Yeah. So the local zoo here in Topeka had they had, I don't know if they still do, but they had a private and a public board. And the public board was just community members that were really invested and wanted to help grow the zoo. One of the previous private board members reached out, and they had a red tail, that beautiful animal. The enclosure is in, or was nice. It was just getting old, and it was kind of like a glass octagon or hexagon. And it had good floor space, but there really wasn't. It had like 4 feet of height, but there wasn't any way for it to utilize it. So they reached out and said, I'd like to provide one of Heartland's enclosures if you guys can use it for that or whatever else. And so was able to use one that I had made for a customer that was custom for a monitor. It's 8 feet wide, 3 feet tall, 2.5 feet deep, full length shelf, 6-inch substrate dam, and then expanded metal on the top for lightings. The monitor keeper was going to fully plan it with grow lights and all of that. So they were able to use it, and now I get to take my 4-year-old and see something I built in my local zoo that I was going to when I was his age, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's really freaking cool. But you went from like these grand scale enclosures. What piqued your interest to designing Chondro enclosures?
Well, I knew I wanted to find a way to get into the smaller enclosures because, frankly, like we said, this is a hobby. I'm always going to have my retics, but if I want to grow it like a business, I have to find a way for, quote, the bread and butter product, the stuff that can consistently sell a little more frequently. And my enclosures are fairly expensive. You're getting what you pay for, but there's a lot into them. So I knew I wanted to find a way into the smaller enclosure market, but I wasn't sure how I was going to do it. And then I was at Bill Stiegel's party, which has always been wonderful because I get to see you, and I've gotten to meet just some of the greatest people. I got to meet Chuck. I sent you the series of pictures from us where we literally captured us listening to Chuck tell a joke, and then like the the laughter after.
Right.
Just an awesome time. But I was explaining to Mark what I was doing with my retic enclosures, and he reached out and said that he'd be interested in looking into if I could build something that would be realistic, and cost effective, or at least competitive for him. And so all of this, frankly, wouldn't have happened without meeting and talking to Mark at Bill's. I'm not saying I wouldn't have gotten there some way, but it wouldn't have been this path. And so I was able to design an 18-inch cube for Mark, and as well as a 30 by 18 by 18. Just went back and forth with him on what he wanted for his animals, and he got a dozen of each, and has what I think is a beautiful wall of enclosures.
I'm gonna post them up real quick here.
And one of the biggest things that I think Mark helped, that was such a great idea, is ensuring that we opened the viewing pane as much as possible, because these animals are just gorgeous animals, but a lot of the stuff that's available has lips, and it might have 2 to 3 inches on the top and the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to give you as much viewing space as possible with these beautiful animals. And so I think the lip is maybe 3/4 inch on the top and bottom, which when you're actually just looking at the wall, it almost kind of disappears. Um, the bottom track covers 2/3, or the top track, excuse me, covers 2/3 of that. So we try to keep it as small as possible.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up another video here where you can kind of, well, I'm trying to find the right video to show that kind of showcases the, I like that it is, and that's, the ones that I have from you. I like that there is no there's it's a few, it's a like
Right.
just amazing view of the animal. It's glass to glass, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that uh here's another good video where he shows kind of the enclosures in the background.
Well, of course, there's small lips, as you can see,
Mhm.
but they're as small as we can go, but still ensuring that the structure is there. So we don't lose any strength or rigidity. They're not gonna wobble on you, so to speak, at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when it comes to that lip, right, and it being pretty small, there's some people that are going to say, well, I like to use like cocoa chips or beddings. I would say the vast majority of chondro breeders out there are using puppy pads or
Right.
paper or something of that nature, right? But for those that do use cocoa chips and stuff, do you have any intentions on being able to get a like a substrate dam or a lip in there?
Yeah, I mean that's no problem at all. It wouldn't be any issue to make basically an L bracket that would be a little bit bigger, and could either be dropped in place with those, or if people have time, I can customize it and add what they want. But after talking to Mark and you and some other people, that's why we did such a small lip. Is I know a lot of people want to have substrate and big, beautiful, naturalistic enclosures for chondros, and I can appreciate why. I don't have any, but they're so beautiful. I want to see them in a natural looking environment. But from what I've learned, it doesn't seem to be ideal, especially if you have a lot. So, it's we can do whatever anybody wants. I'll build whatever, especially if you have time to wait a little bit longer. It's no problem. But this just seemed to be the most practical approach for what most are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you mind kind of sharing a little of the background and the thought that went into more of the design when you talked to Mark? Um, when I know that like you went from like using double panels for the larger enclosures to going down to single panels, but I mean, what was, I guess I'm curious, like you talked to Mark, right? And Mark like had a specific thought and vision, right? And helped you with kind of doing this. What was Mark saying, and like what were the things that you were trying to capture?
One of the main things was the big open viewing window. My whole thing, and I told Mark, I said, "Man, I don't know chondros. I know of them. I love looking at them, but I don't know what they need." And so I just let him steer me within the bounds of what I knew we needed to have as far as structure and whatnot. Um, I I do think, and this was me, I do think that there's probably more ventilation in them than is necessary for most chondro keepers. The logic being the first run, we can always cover ventilation. It's a lot harder to add more. Um, the ventilation is actually going to change. Looking at actually removing the slots up and down the side or the back that you can see there, and changing that to actually water jetting out my logo in the top back corners. It'll still provide some ventilation. It'll restrict it more like what most people have reached out and asked for, frankly. Um, but we did that. I also worked with a guy that I've known for a decade or more that's very, very sharp with design. He was able to basically help me be the liaison between what Mark wanted to house his chondros in and how to make all the design language work and be the most efficient possible. So, the way that I imagined it, um, it was something like four pieces of, or no, it was like six pieces of metal. Um, I think like 12 or 14 breaks or bends in it. And I can't remember how many rivets and six welds, but he was able to bring it down to like 8 bends, 24 rivets. I mean, just really hone it. Most people probably don't care, but
No,
really
but
hone
I mean,
it.
it's part of like, it's when you're designing a product that no one else has designed. It's so easy for someone to come into the market and say, I'm going to do PVC enclosures.
Right,
Why? Because they can go out and buy 20 different PVC enclosures, look at all the designs, and be like, this is how I do it. No one is fabricating enclosures with aluminum.
right.
And so yeah, having someone like that to be able to like say like, no, we can do it this much easier with like this, and at the end of the day, that also saves money on the cost of the enclosures, which is
Right.
good for us consumers.
Well, and that's why it was so worth it. And like I said, Abe's a friend. He's an awesome guy, incredibly sharp. He was more than reasonable on the rate, but that upfront cost of having him do the work and being able to utilize his knowledge, you're right, it helped drive the overall retail price down significantly. So
Right.
um, we did that. Worked with Mark on the spacing of the perch slots and stuff like that. Really, just kind of all the main details of how are they going to sit on one another, how's the glass going to fit, just every little thing. So it was just kind of frankly following Mark's vision and trying to help give him the parameters we needed as far as, bends on the front for strength.
I would say if the lead of the design was done by Mark Hager, like I think that like a lot of people in the chondro community could be rest assured that it's a
Yeah,
well designed enclosure because Mark is a I feel like Mark really cares about his animals, knows the animals really well, and wants the best for them.
for sure. And working with Mark really was just wonderful. Like he's the nicest guy in the world. Um, I can't remember what they were, but I know I had hiccups along the way and impatient. Like the goal was to get them to him before this breeding season. I wasn't able to do that. He was very understanding. And so, he's doing his pairings in what he has them in. And then after pairings, moving them into mine. And I just like thinking of myself, if I had these new things coming, I'd want them, right? I want them now. And to miss that mark, I was really disappointed I missed it, but he was very humble and excuse me, accepting what I could do and when I got it done. So
Yeah.
I have a great deal of respect for Mark.
So real quick, let me also talk to you about this. The ones that we see in the videos with Mark, they're white, right?
Yep.
Um, I know everyone is probably thinking, do they come in black? Do they
Yes.
come in purple? I don't know. Like what colors are you currently fabricating them in right now, or are you you're powder coating them in, right?
Yes. Everything's powder coated. Um, White's kind of the standard how I started, but I've now actually thanks to Ryan Manfredi found it's called Nocturnal Gold, and it's a black powder coat with some gold flake in it, which black meets what everybody needs. It matches. The gold kind of ties into the Heartland
Yep.
logo, and frankly, it's just a sharp looking color, man. Like
It looks
it
great.
looks black, but with light and angle, it's gonna pop. So it won't. I don't think it will like make other black enclosures around it look bad, but you're gonna notice it out
Yeah.
of those. So it'll still fit in.
Yeah. And I mean, you sent me a picture of that color, and I had just convinced myself to go all white with my chondro enclosures, and got a couple years of white, and now this color's coming out, and I'm like, damn it, like I'm thinking in my head, how can I send my current ones back to him to get them recoated?
It's doable. It's possible.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I need
They
them here.
are quarantine enclosures.
Right. Yeah, there you go. I like that. They could be quarantine
Plus,
enclosures.
that way it'll be a lot easier to spot anything that you might need to. That's why I like the white originally, is I know it's clean or I know it's dirty.
Right.
And so that's why it started with white.
Right.
It wasn't to like try to be different, because I recognize a lot of people like black for what it is and it hides dirt and whatever. But I want to see.
The downside of the black is that the urate stains are just well, let's actually talk about that. Like how do these enclosures hold up when it comes to like the urate stains and everything? I'm asking you. I could tell people because I've had your enclosure for over a year, but I kind of want to hear it from you, and because now that you switch over all your snakes to your enclosures,
Yeah.
essentially, and so like, what are you seeing as far as like how it's holding up against the wear and tear of retics? Right, retics are even like more destructive than chondros. So,
Oh man, I have no complaints. Basically, I use a plastic dustpan, take the big scoops out, shop vac the dust from the mulch or whatever, and then spray it down, wipe it down. The powder coating finish it goes on as a powder. It's electrocharged to stick to the metal. It goes into an oven at a certain temperature. The powder coat actually gels together and then cures. So it effectively laminates the metal, and leaves it with a porous finish.
yeah.
So a little bit of moisture. I think you said you use mouthwash or alcohol, whatever. A little bit of moisture and a plastic scraper or a fingernail will take just about anything up. And actually, one thing I've noticed is my snakes, when they're shedding, they lean into the powder coat, and it seems like it helps kind of stick to it a little bit.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't see
yeah.
any issue with them when they're not shedding, like rubbing and getting hung up. But I've noticed, because I see some sheds stuck to it.
So I'm the reason why I'm moving around a bunch right now is I just remember that Saul over at Cryptic Chondros just released an episode on his channel with Mark in there, and I kind of wanted to see if there was any good spots on here where it showcased your enclosures.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm really grateful for Sal and Mark doing that, because at the end of it, like the last 5 minutes, they just talked about the enclosures, which was not, he didn't have to do that. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it muted, but I kind of just want to, just so people could see what they look like bare.
Yeah, that was because Sal was there the weekend I delivered them to Mark. I delivered them to Mark at the Dallas NARBC, I think on Friday. And so that was, didn't even have the 18-inch cube glass in yet.
Yeah. No, I'm glad. It sounds like he also went through kind of the design layout, like the purpose of it. But yeah, I mean, they're just they are like, again, they're simplistic looking, right? And what I like about them being bare like that is that like people can put whatever perch style that they want in there.
Right.
They can do, like Mark has done, they could do sticks, or they can get PVC piping. And fun fact, I'm probably going to talk to David over at the Reptile Perch and try to come up with some type of like, we need to come up with some partnership with Heartland Reptiles and his place. Maybe if he can try to design a perch specifically for the Heartland enclosure in the dimensions that you have, I think that would be really, really cool.
I'd be more than happy to work with him. One thing that's funny, as I'm looking, you can see the holes in the sides for the perches. Mark and I laid those out together, and I think Mark ended up not using them anyways for where he mounted the branches, because I think the branches were different than what he planned on using originally. But that's one thing that's nice. They're there if you want them, but you don't have to use them. If you like a different setup or layout, I think Mark used kind of like the 3M double adhesive stuff and something to hold his branches.
Right. What's crazy is I want to go back to what he just did here for a second. Is like, look how effortlessly.
Oh yeah.
He went and just like picked up that enclosure.
I'm not sure the exact weight on the 18 that he picked up. the 30-inch next to it with the glass in, those ship with double corrugated box, glass, all the packing. It's 39 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
So that thing's probably, I don't know, maybe 12 pounds.
yeah. No, it's extremely lightweight. When I had them, when I picked them up at the show, um, I was just like, I walked out with both of them, just like no problem,
Yeah.
with the glass inside and everything. I will say this, that, you know, when it comes to like, it's so crazy the durability that these enclosures have versus the lightweight
Mm-hmm.
approach with the aluminum in it. Um, but yeah, I'm a really, really, really big fan of like the simplistic nature of the cube. But let's get into shipping. You talked about shipping. So like these are made, and they basically, like when they're ordered, there's no putting anything together.
No, they ship as you see them tracks in. I leave the grommets out. Now, if somebody reaches out and says, "Hey, put the grommet in," I'm more than happy to do it. The reason I leave those out is if you are running a cord through it, it's easier to put the cord through the grommet and then put the grommet in place. But other than that, they're ready to go. The glass is wrapped in shrink wrap. It's got corks between it, and then some white foam wrapped around it, and then the whole it's like in the center of the enclosure with paper packed all around it so that it won't break.
Right. Um, and so, I mean, in my opinion, like that is, you know, getting an enclosure shipped to you that doesn't need freight. That's so the shipping's affordable, right? That's one big thing. The only other type of enclosures out there that are doing that at an affordable shipping price are flat packs,
Right.
which means you have to spend time putting them together.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. This is from moving my PVC rack that had what I don't know what size they are, CB70, the 36-inch tubs. And it was because I was moving too fast and didn't ask for help when I should have. But, like I got cut up, and you don't have to worry about that. It's just grab and go.
Right. I think it's grab and go. You take it out of the box, you lay the glass inside the tracks, you put the grommets in, you install the stuff that you want to put in for the interior of the enclosure, and like you got your chondro set up in no time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, I don't think a lot of people run lighting or at least not in the enclosures, but if you're just running heat, you put your heat panel on or heat tape on the back and purchase and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. And that to me is, I mean, time is huge for me, right? So when I buy enclosures and I know that, I have like 3 enclosures coming in and I gotta like build them all. Sometimes they'll sit in their box for 2-3 weeks before I even touch them.
Oh yeah. No, I get it. I have one PVC enclosure left. I have the rack for growing animals, but I have 1 8-foot left. And it's partially because I want to see what it does over time. It's partially because everything, frankly, goes towards the business. And it's still a fine enclosure for Miss Piggy, but the stains that are there, like, I don't like it.
Right. Right. Yeah, it could be a pain. So if you don't mind me asking, let's talk a little bit more about like the approach that you wanted to take with the enclosures from the beginning. And tell us a little bit about like, what gaps in the market that you saw were there, right? When you look at other enclosure companies and caging companies, what were the problems that you were seeing and how were you trying to overcome them or what were you trying to do?
Well, effectively, when it comes to manufacturing, I've learned that there's basically 3 pillars. You've got your price, your quality, and then the lead time or how long it takes to get the product. You can pick 2 of those. You can get 2 of those that you want to focus on, but you're gonna have to give up one. So if you want really high quality and really fast, you're probably gonna pay a little bit more. If you want really low price and you want high quality, it's probably going to take a long time. So one of those legs has to give, so to speak. I was at I was irritated with the quality of PVC, not the manufacturers, but the material itself. The PVC that I do have, the guy makes a great product. I have no qualms, but I don't like the material itself. And frankly, the lead time on some of that stuff was still astronomical, and they really weren't that cheap.
Yeah.
Now, this was also when I got that one, I think it was 2021. So it was, everybody was way backlogged. But even still, I don't think it's gotten that much better for what I would like to see.
Yeah, no, I mean we're still talking for a lot of manufacturers out there. We're still talking about like 8-week lead times, and there's still one company, I won't mention who, but you go on their website and they have had the same message on their website the entire. I mean, we're talking about like 4 to 6 months. Plus, it took 8 months for my enclosure from them to get to my place.
Yeah.
If I need an enclosure and I'm purchasing it and spending the money, I promise you I need it.
Yeah.
Sooner rather than later.
And even if you know that there's a really long lead time, you can plan. But if it's your first retic, you know, a lot of people I think are going to be guessing, well, how early do I need to buy it? How long can I wait? This, that, or the other. But 8 months, an animal is going to grow drastically, especially if we're talking even a dwarf, super dwarf cross.
Yeah,
that animal's going to grow very quick. I wanted to be able to provide a very high quality in a much quicker turnaround time. Those were the two things that were most important to me. So my prices are a little bit higher than PVC, but I believe the product is truly that much better, and you're not going to have to wait as long. Part of the benefit of my approach is that the company I work for, and now another company as well, manufacture these for me off of my specifications. Now I do all the quality control and stuff like that. But because of that, if I get an order and say I get sick or, something happens, your order is still getting manufactured. So you don't have to worry about something happening to me and your order like getting pushed out drastically because I'm a one-man show.
Yeah.
I lose some profit margin for sure by doing that, but it allows me the confidence to know that product gets made. I'm not going to lose my lead times. And when I tell somebody, hey, thank you for your order, it's scheduled to be completed in this week, I'll get it boxed up and shipped out X amount of days later, I know I can hit that and nothing's going to budge.
Yeah, exactly. That's huge. That's important. Especially again, because you're having it sourced out and made by, a company that's been doing this for an extremely long time.
And everybody that touches these I've known for over a decade and are just wonderful people to work with. I mean, these are people that, Midwestern skilled folks take a lot of pride in what they do.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for all of them that work on my stuff.
Yeah. So if you don't mind going into this, I think just there's no reason to hide it because I actually think that they are priced very, very fair. But right now you have two sizes. You have the 18 cube and you have the 30 by 18 by 18. Again, those dimensions were kind of like designed with like Mark and like what he was wanting for his room and everything. And that's what you have available right now to just go ahead and send an order in. So how much does the 18, how much does the 30 cost to, cost and then plus shipping?
So the retail on the 18 is $3.99. The retail on the 30 by 18 by 18 is $4.99. The shipping is drastically less than a lot of people expect. I shipped a 30-inch enclosure to Texas, and I think it was $45. I shipped one to, Chuck in New Jersey, and I think it was $65. So it's less than you're going to spend on overnight shipping of an animal.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
Now that's not overnight shipping. That's, ground, but I box them all in double corrugated boxes. It might be overkill, but I believe overkill is underrated, as my enclosures show. So, the few extra bucks to make sure they're packaged well and are protected is well worth it. I want to make sure that it comes out with a nice, good finish and there wasn't any damage from shipping.
Yeah. And again, at $400 and $600 or $399 or I'm sorry, and $499,
Mm-hmm.
that right there, like I'm telling you right now, at least what I've observed in the Chondro community is these people do not shy away from spending money
Right.
on their animals. And to be honest, I think that those prices are pretty fair.
Well, I'd like to think they are. And one thing I believe I'm starting to see, I really hope it continues, is I hope that the reptile community starts to take some notes from saltwater keeping, because
Yeah.
those folks put crazy money into, like, a 24 by 24 saltwater tank with coral, and they're gorgeous.
Yeah, like $10,000 worth of coral.
Right. But the fish themselves might not be that much. But to have it set up right and done right, they put that much money in. And so I want to see people, not necessarily with mine, but however they keep, put that kind of effort into whatever they're keeping. You've got a $50 ball python,
Right.
a garter snake for $20, whatever it may be. Put it into what they're living in. I'd love to see that continue to grow in that direction, kind of like the saltwater community. I think they do an awesome job with what they have, and I think we're catching up. I think product development is catching up. What they have for their market is amazing, especially in lighting and filtration and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. But if you look at the reptile industry, like reptile industry itself, and you want to talk about like advancements in product and keeping, right? And we're talking about like specifically product, right?
Yeah.
Like over the last 30 years, it's been like this steady increase. And then all of a sudden, like in the last like 5 years, 10 years, we've just seen this like shoot up of like all these different new products that are coming out. I mean, lighting in and of itself is
Yeah.
starting to get so freaking crazy.
Sorry. Hold on a sec.
You're good.
Sorry, my son's baby monitor.
No, you're good. You're good. That's pretty important.
Oh, I'm sure I'd hear him without it, but at least I can talk to him this way if I need to.
Right, exactly. Go back to sleep.
Yeah. Nah, he's a good kid.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean the product development is skyrocketing. People are making amazing and naturalistic looking perches and all these different things. You know, I think that when it comes to housing, right, you're and I'm talking specifically about chondros.
Mhm.
Like the most important thing, in my opinion, is like the health and well being of your chondro, right?
Yeah.
Can't tell you how many instances I see people posting of them getting like a juvenile, tiny little chondro, and they're sticking it into this, you know, naturalistic style enclosure with really thick branches and stuff. Like, so for chondro keepers, like it's really about like making sure that you can keep this animal well established after it's been sent to you well established.
Right.
And I think that your enclosures provide people with a sense of like safety, sterility, cleanliness, but then people can also do them up the way that they can be done up to look beautiful as well.
Right. One
Yeah.
thing I'd love to do, once I get time and get this a little bit more established, I'd love to get some universal rock and play around with putting that on the side. Because, I mean, for durability and just overall appearance, I think they've done an awesome job. You can get so many different looks and textures and all that. I'd like to play with that someday. So,
Yeah. So Chuck and I are talking to Universal Rocks a little bit,
awesome.
and we might get some product, and I was actually considering putting it in the 18 cube,
Heck yeah.
just to see how I think it would be. I mean, it's just even. I feel like even just for a chondro who might not even utilize a rock wall,
Yeah.
still for like a shed, right? Because what I do notice of my chondros is at night they are crazy busy. They are constantly. I guarantee you, I go into my garage right now and I don't have a single chondro that's doing nothing.
Yeah.
And
And you can still keep it sterile.
right,
Right?
exactly.
Like, it's easy to clean, sterilize. You don't have to give that up.
Yeah, that's huge.
Hey, let me know. I'd like to work with you.
Yeah, no, we'll talk. So real quick, I mean, I'm going to open up the floor for anything else that you want to talk about your specific enclosures. And then, yeah, do you have anything? I mean, I guess I have one more question in regards to the enclosures, but I have like a little fun thing that I want to end off with.
Okay.
So real quick, what's so right now you have the 18 cube, the 30 by 18 by 18. Like, what's in your head next for like the chondro, for the chondro keepers, right? And the enclosures that they want to have. Like, are you thinking about any other size or dimensions? Or what's on your mind?
Yeah, I've definitely thought about a 3x2x2. I know some people that keep emeralds in that, and maybe some chondros. Emeralds are up there with me as far as species that have fascinated me since I was a little kid. The retics first captured me. I think it was a David Attenborough show on PBS or something when I was little, and we've talked about this, but the Nat Geo cover of the emerald tree boa is still forever burned in my head from when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
But I think 3x2x2 is one that I'd like to do. Really,
That I'm not gonna lie, that also is a perfect like super dwarf starter kit.
right. Well, and one thing that I have that's actually done and ready to go, I'm going to bring them down to Dallas NARBC in was it March, is a 4x2x2. I've got that completed. The design work's done, and I'll have them ready and be bringing, I think, 4 of them down there. One is spoken for, but that's more for the, that's kind of the standard size, right? Your ball python, your
Right. Colubrid.
bearded dragon, stuff like that. So I'm hoping that'll kind of be just a good entry market enclosure. That 4x2x2, I'll be able to retail at $6.99.
Cool.
So I'm excited about that. It'll come in that nocturnal gold, the black with the gold flake.
I can't wait to see
I'm
that
excited
thing.
for those.
I probably when I see it at the next NARBC show, when you have it available, if you have one there for sale, I probably won't even need or have room for an enclosure, but I'm gonna grab it.
Well, why do you think I'm bringing 3 extra, Lucas?
There you go.
You're gonna come see me, buddy.
Exactly. Actually, this year I'm not making it to the shows. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this year is I'm gonna have a newborn. So
Well, yes, that's right. And if there's ever a good reason to not go, that's it.
right.
But I'm almost glad that you told me on video so you could see my genuine disappointment.
Yeah, no, it was great. But I'm hoping James still goes up and hangs out with y'all though. So
yeah, definitely.
Okay, so anything else that you wanted to? Oh, by the way, my face kind of like I went when you said the 4x2x2.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking design wise, like what if you can like put a divider in there?
2x2s that can
right.
grow up to 4x2x2s.
Right.
The idea has been played with. Don't worry.
Okay, good. Because for those of you that don't know, for the reticulated python enclosures he builds, they're modular. So like you can add on to them, and he makes like these little windows that like the enclosures connect to each other, and the snake has access to more. So, yeah, I think that's a really cool aspect of the design.
Yeah, my little portholes.
Right, exactly. Okay, so fun part of the episode that I wanted to toy around with, and I came up with this in the middle of this episode, and so I don't even have like the questions ready, but I just want to, someone who knows almost nothing about chondros, I want to ask chondro related questions and see if you can come up with whatever answer that you have.
I love it.
Okay, so first and foremost, I'm a locality guy. Yes. Name as many green tree python localities that you can.
All right, so you got, I know there's Cyclops, Biak, Aru. Oh man, on the spot. Man, if you give me more time, I could come up with some, but I am not.
I'm going to give you like 20 more seconds to see if you can come up. You got 3 right now. If you could do 5, I'll give you a round of applause.
All right.
So you got Cyclops, Biak,
Maniquori.
Yep, Maniquori. That's 4. One more for the win.
Oh shoot. Oh no. Oh gosh, I got
That
nothing.
that's okay. If one comes up, it's okay. We'll go to the next one. Next question is, what is a designer chondro?
Designer chondro is, from my understanding, a cross of localities, right? You're trying to get the polygenic traits of one or both and combine them.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a pretty simplistic way of doing it. Now, I will say, if you take a Biak to an Aru and you cross it once, you don't have a designer yet, right? But it eventually becomes one when you are trying to find a specific look, like melanism, right?
Right. So this is a question more than a statement. So designer is more lineage brought down to focus on a specific outcome.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Okay. What would you so what are the differences that you know about, like, in terms of like the color changes with a red and a yellow neonate?
From what little I know, the OCC, I'm gonna stammer over it if I try and say it. The octogenic color change or whatever.
Ontogenetic, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I was watching Gary Shavino's video earlier tonight, so I got a little bit of a boost from that. But from my understanding, with the reds, you want to look for less pattern, darker reds, hoping for, quote, the better outcome. And the yellows, the coloration isn't quite as important as the pattern. Now, Mark, if I'm wrong, come educate me.
Yeah, Mark will give you some 2 cents on yellows, that's for sure.
And I want to learn. I'm biased towards
the next question was going to be, who's the king of the yellow neos?
Oh,
and
that's got to be Mark, right? Like,
yeah,
it's got to be. And so that's part of the reason, random tangent, I was so excited to work with Mark, is I love yellow, and I don't have the grasp of the chondros like a lot of you all do, but I just love yellow coloration. That's why my first retic was a platinum. I love yellows. And so that's why, like, I've always liked seeing what he's putting out, because the color palette appeals to me.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some designer stuff that ends up adult with high yellow, and like the yellow is like lemon in color, and it's just so beautiful.
See, and that gets me excited.
Yeah. No, they're really awesome. Okay, did another locality pop up for you?
No, it didn't.
That's okay. That's okay. I will say, you named 4 localities. You know what a designer is.
Hey, when we get off of this, like, the kicker is if I just was able to, like, even just pull up Instagram to see, like, chats, I'm sure something would spark, but no.
Yeah. What if I say Jayapura? Does like another one come in mind?
See, I kept wanting to say Java, and that's why I was like, no, that's not right. But
yeah, not far off though. Yeah. Another easy one is Australian, right? There's the Aussie chondro.
That doesn't even seem to me. It doesn't even seem like a real locality. That's a whole continent. How can that be a locality?
It is.
You guys are so honed in, and you're going to just say Australian? That doesn't make sense.
Well, they are part of the Morelia viridis, right? So they're closely related to like the Arus. And if you look at like where the Arus are versus Australia, it's right where that like break in where it used to be one.
They're almost entirely on the very top of the continent, aren't they?
From what I understand, yeah, and what I can imagine, because I know the further south you get, the warmer it gets and drier it gets too, and that's just not where chondros like it.
Okay.
All right, that was all for just like messing around with you. I don't have any other questions I can think of, but before we sign off here, do you mind giving just kind of your plugs? If people want to order your enclosure, people want to hit you up, or if you want to give insight on what the process looks like, anything else that you want to add in terms of like communicating with you and all that good stuff on how they can get an enclosure from you.
The easiest way to get a hold of me, if we haven't spoken before, is Instagram. just because I check it more frequently. Facebook is fine. I'll definitely see it. If I don't respond, it's just that I haven't seen that it's probably went in the request area. Um, from that, heartlandreptiles.com, I do have the domain. Adler's going to be building me the website. So, I'm hoping in the next couple months, maybe by the time some people are coming back to this, that should be up and running. And from there, it'll be set up to where you can order directly off the website. You'll still be able to reach out to me directly with any questions or concerns you might have, or any custom ideas you'd like to see built. But Instagram's the easiest. I've got some stuff up on YouTube, not only interviews with you guys, but a few short videos that go over the retic stacks and some of that stuff, that go over a little bit more of the early start of how this all began. But yeah, I love talking to everybody and playing with ideas and stuff like that. So reach out to me, and whenever we talk, I'll probably end up just giving you my cell phone number because it's faster and easier to get a hold of me.
Right.
But no, I really enjoy being able to work with the community, and I love my snakes. One thing we all step back every now and then and try and evaluate, and I don't want my snakes and my retics to be the driving force or the driving funding for quote Heartland Reptiles, because while I want to be able to focus on that and just do what I love and never feel pressure of finance on it. So that's one reason I'm working really hard and really trying to get the enclosures going and more established, is I'd like for that to be kind of the bread and butter income for quote Heartland Reptiles, and that'll afford some ability to ease off on the financial pressure of breeding and stuff like that. Yeah. Luckily, there's no pressure for it right now. I'm able to take my time. Nobody went last year, no big deal. May not have anybody go this year. Still got two girls that I'm hopeful for, but it is nice to not have to worry about that, or worry about finding homes for babies and how quick it has to happen. My last baby from the 23 clutch is still with me. She's sold, going to Don D. Wonderful guy. Going to give her. Cool. He's already got the enclosure built. It's beautiful.
Awesome.
Just weather, right? We want to be safe with her and make sure that she's.
And that's the last one.
Yep, last one.
Any holdbacks? No
holdbacks from that clutch.
Okay.
I had one that I thought about holding back, but it doesn't really benefit any breeding projects. The only reason it would have been held back was sentimental value, which was very tempting. And the only reason I let it go is a good friend Elias saw me at Schaumburg, and so Elias hadn't interacted with retics. I was like, well, bro, let me know which one you want to hold, and said he didn't care. So I gave him my favorite, and just because I knew he's such a good boy, like they all are, but I like to spend time with them and make sure that they're very confident and comfortable with people. And I think Elias spent like an hour with him, and he's now with Elias, and his name's Juju, and he's doing outreach programs, and literally awesome. like the dream. You want to see your kid grow up and do great things. I want to see my animals go up and make a positive impact for the community and for people. And so Juju's out there. Literally, he went to a fashion show. Like, never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that was something that could be possible. But went there, and a lot of the people were able to see him and experience a retic for the first time. So
yeah,
that's why
that's a really cool
holdback was allowed to go, is because it was going to such an awesome place. And the same with this last baby. She had rubbed the top of her head and had a little bit of a swelling spot. And Don and I had been talking, and And I told him straight up, like, here's the deal. Here's pictures of it. Here's what I plan to do to treat it. And he completely understood and said, hey, if she's got a little scar, it'll just give her character. And luckily, she's healed up wonderfully. She looks beautiful.
Retics are probably the most resilient snake out there, man.
For sure. And it's great because like I freak out if something happens, like I don't want any of my animals suffering or in pain or have anything wrong with them. And so, I ended up having to like make a small incision and remove this basically cyst from her.
Yeah.
And I was so worried going into that, just harming this baby,
Right.
But there's no other way to say it other than when I was holding her and I started doing it, she relaxed I don't want to anthropomorphize, but she relaxed in a manner that she knew that I was trying to help.
Right.
Luckily, everything went well and all of that. I don't advise people going crazy and self-treating. I did a lot of research and spoke to a lot of people before I took that on myself. But it was a really cool feeling. And honestly, I think she's become sweeter since then,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I've had some animals where I've had to like, teeth have gotten caught, things like that. And at first they freak out, but then eventually they start to like relax and realize, okay, I think that this is going to be okay. But dude, I first of all, thank you so much for what now we're on like 3 years of great friendship, and partnership now with you being a sponsor for the Chondro Lounge and for the Retic Lounge. I want to continue to, if we have any other type of podcast that start up on the network, you're going to be the very first person that we talk to in terms of an enclosure sponsorship. And thank you for the enclosures that I have here. Please send me the tracks.
Yeah.
So I can get a snake in the freaking 18er. But yeah, I cannot emphasize enough, that the quality of these enclosures, the affordability of them at the quality is unmatched. And yeah, just thank you for coming on and sharing more about them so that we could try to get them out there.
No, I really appreciate you having me on. Like you said, the years of friendship, we all love these animals, but some of us are lucky enough to find amazing people within that.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that's what really makes it, right? Like,
right.
We're at a point where I can reach out and it's obviously completely snake related. And, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but it's good to have friends that understand, or have similar things going on in their life. So I'm incredibly grateful for you, for Chuck, for Nathan, everybody in this community that supports what we're trying to do and building a better place for everybody.
Yeah, man. Whenever I produce my first chondro clutch, I'm sending you a baby and then we'll have you on to see how the experience is going.
I'm going to hold you to it. It'll be my first one and I'm pumped.
Yeah, man. Have a good night, dude.
All right. Love you, brother.
See ya. Love you. All right, everyone. That is episode 17 and we wrapped up. Guys, I am being serious. This sponsorship that I do with Jordan, again, he's a friend of ours. This isn't something that makes me rich or him rich. These enclosures are phenomenal. I knew that they were great with the retics, and when he scaled them down to be for chondros, that's all I'm going to put my chondros in moving forward. They're really nice enclosures. Chuck has one. Mark has, 20 plus. So reach out to people if you want to hear like truly how they are that have bought them. Reach out to Mark or to Chuck or myself. But yeah, on that note, we will see you in a couple weeks. Chuck will be back, and we'll see you on episode 18.